Isso aqui, oh, é pouquinho de Brasil, iaia.
Hi, I love socks. It's the thing that I love most in clothing in general. I love socks. And I love this book, the Op Art book. This socks in particular. I tried to knit, I knitted 2 pairs of it. One that had a colorful yarn and another solid color one, solid brown. And then I did this in gray and black. But this didn't satisfy me because I love this. This is what I love and this is what I wanted. So I decided I'm going to dye my own yarn. I have spun this sock yarn 100% Corriedale. It's a 3-ply and I spun it worsted. So a while ago I had hand dyed this self-striping yarn and I knit this pair of socks. So I know now that the red normally gives me 3 rows of color, and I think to get what I need there, I would need around 3 times the amount of red that I have, because when you are doing the collar strand, you're not knitting all the stitches, so it's going to give me more. So in reality, what I want is to have a stripe of the same color that would be like from here to here, more or less. If it goes like this, I'm happy. So, and if it doesn't, well, that was a learning curve, right? But aiming for that, what I did is I got the red that I know normally gives me around 3 to 4 rows, and I'm going to use 3 times that for each collar. I'm doing a lead that I'm going to go outside to work on the chairs and do it. So for this yarn, I got the fiber, and normally I use 2 strands, one from the middle and one from the outside, because I want the socks to be the same or as close as possible, like this pair of socks that I did here, right? I don't know if you can see, they're very close to each other. So to do that, I get one from the middle, one from the outside, and then I warp it. I use the warping loom, and then it becomes difficult when you are unrolling it. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going just to have chairs, and I'll go around the chairs and to have all the distance that I want. The pairs, the socks here, they have red, blue, and yellow, and then they have green and a little bit of orange and purple. That is the blend, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a dye that is 50% red, 50% blue, 50% red, 50% yellow, and 50% blue and 50% yellow. So I will get that plus the 100% of each primary color to get the socks. So now what I'm going to do is I'll go around the chairs, because this will make it easier for me to roll the 2 threads separately after. And after I do that, I will mark the points that I want each color. So it has to be 3 times this distance that I have in the red per color, and so that it's ready to dye. And then I will soak it in water and vinegar, or water and citric acid. I'll let you know which one I decided afterwards. got the yarn, and I just put, I have never worked with such a long yarn, but it makes sense because if you see the socks, it has only 3 repeats. So let's see how it's gonna work out. But the thing is, normally I put 8 ties in a skein this big, or a little bit bigger. This time I put only 6 ties in the skein for me to know where I have to change the collar. So let's hope for the best. I decided to use vinegar. And when you use vinegar, vinegar is a very low acid. So I learned that you should use the same amount of vinegar as the weight of goods. So I have here 155, almost 160 grams of yarn. So I put here a little bit less than 200 ml of vinegar, and I'm also going to add vinegar to the dyes. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to let this soak for half an hour, and then I will take all the water out and let it moist, but not with water in. But for now, I'll let it do this while I'm going to prepare the dyes. I'll just leave here, just wanted to push it down a little bit for the water to come in. I'm not moving much of the yarn because I don't want it to become a mess. Hopefully it will not. We will see. Fingers crossed. Okay. So now I'm going to prepare the dyes. One thing is that normally when I do hand dyed yarn, I would put too much dye on the fiber, and fiber will absorb up to a certain point. And I would have a lot of dye coming out of the fiber. This happened a lot when I was hand dyeing fiber or hand dyeing yarn. So now what I do is I use the same knowledge that I would do if I were doing a different kind of dye. So in dyeing, what I learned in the course is that you use the same amount of vinegar and you use the same amount for the dye. So that would be, if I have 160 ml, I'm going to use 160 milliliters of dye. In this case, to make it a little bit simpler, because I'm going to use 6, it would be 25.8 or whatever. I'm going to use 30 ml of dye for each section. So when you use this disparity of same amount of fiber to same amount of dye, you say that you're using one depth of color because it is 1-1. So let's suppose that I want a stronger shade of red, for example, then I'm going to put 2 depths of color. That means I would put the amount of, if I have 150 ml and I'm going to dye everything red, and I want a depth 2 of color, then I would put 300 ml of a dye. And hopefully the fiber would absorb it or not. So today I'm going to work with 1 depth. I will do another exercise that we can experiment doing different depth of color, and then you can see it better. But just to have in mind. So while we are letting the fiber soak, I'm going to start preparing the dye. So as I said, I'm going to use 30 ml of dye for each color. So I have 30 ml of blue. Because I'm going to do 50-50 green, I'm going to get 15 ml of blue and put it here. That I will join with yellow. And this one is going to be 15 of blue that I'm going to join with red, mix with red. I'm going to leave it here now, and the next color will be the red because it's a brand new one. I'm just going to get it from here. So I have 30 ml that I'm going to put here. And then 15 in here. And 15 in here. Doesn't look like much. And now I need the, just close the red. Ooh, this is not working. Put this here and get this one. Okay, so I'm going to put 30 here. $15 in here. And 15 in here. And I'll use this to blend. That's okay. All right, so I have green, blue. I have all the colors that I want here. I can't pour back the blue. So the dyes are ready to start dyeing. What I'm going to do is to have the fiber soaking. I put a little bit of saran wrap there. And what I want is also add some vinegar to the dye, because vinegar is really low. I noticed that when I use citric acid, it gets the color much better, but I'm going to use vinegar now. I just need to wash one of my things. I'll be back. So I'm going to put an extra 15 ml for each one of them. So now I'm gonna try to have the fiber put in there. I opened a little piece of saran wrap and I squished the water out. You see, it's easier when you're doing and you're not filming, but let me see where it started. That's my fear. I'm gonna try to find one of my here, my knots, and I will work from there. Because this is going to be the same color up to the next knot, I can put them all together. So I'm going to squish a little bit more of this water. And the first is here. Just get here is my second. Look for my third, my second one. That doesn't sound good. Okay, we're gonna have to review this because I think it moved. I would almost say don't try this at home because it was a mess. Luckily, my husband is very nice to me and we were outside dancing and rolling and twisting because it was a mess. My suggestion is that if you are working with such a big skein, please do make more tie-ups because otherwise it gets a mess, and it gets a mess. So we went out there in the back again and we found 6. We divided it to 6 and I put a very tied up one, what normally you wouldn't do because you want dye to get into the collar everywhere, right? But for the sake of this yarn, I'm going to have it tied up. The other thing is, while we were there trying to open it up and find the 1/6 of the yarn practically got dry. So I put some more water and vinegar on the top, just a little bit, and I'm going to add 10 ml of vinegar to each one of these pots because I do believe I will need as much liquid as possible to spray this there. So normally I could use a pair of gloves, but I'm not going to because I want to touch and I want to be sure the yarn is going to be very much thin. So I also put another saran wrap here And maybe I should put my gloves on. I'm going to try with the gloves. And I have paper towel to clean my hand, the gloves when I'm doing this. And I will put everything in there. So what I'm doing is to assure that the yarn the dye is going everywhere. So squished. Get the work it. Where is the... I think it's closed there. Okay, so again everything is wet, and it's much easier if you're dealing with a not so long skein, because now I'm going to, I should work with the orange that is going here, but I'm going to work with the yellow because I have a pair of clean gloves here. With the yellow. So you could use the paper towel, but because I'm doing so much squishing, I'm going to wash the hands again. So still, because of the colors being brighter, I'm going to do the green. Done with the green. Okay, so now I have the blue and the orange to do. So I'm going to do the orange here. Put it in the microwave or when you put it to steam, the dye is going to expand and go again and cover a little bit, but you're better off just being sure that everywhere you have dye. Okay, so wash my hand again, and the last one, the final one. has still a little bit of glue. I'm gonna throw it up here. I think this part maybe was a little bit more moist and it spread it nicely. Okay, so final wash and wash. Okay, so now all I have to do is to wrap the saran wrap around it. Just going to take this out to make it easier. If need be, I can put another saran wrap on the top. People don't even put the saran wrap, they just put on a steamer. You could do that. So I do have a steamer, but because I use food dye, I'm going to use the microwave. So there are people that think that even though it's food dye, you should not use your cooking microwave because of the fumes or something like that. I'm okay with it. First of all, I use my microwave just for popcorn and occasionally heating something, very rare. And it's food dye, so for me, I'm not so worried about it. But if you are, by all means, you can always use the steamer. So just put it to cook for 30 minutes in the steamer and you'll be okay. In my case here, I'm going to put in the microwave as it is, and I'm going to put for 2 minutes, let it rest for 2 minutes, then I'll put 2 minutes again, let it rest for 2 minutes, and then more 2 minutes. So I'll do 6 minutes in total, but stopping and let it cool down. And after this, I'll let it cool down by itself, and I will rinse it tomorrow morning only. So I will come back tomorrow morning when this is cool and ready to be rinsed and put outside to dry. Okay, I let it cool down since yesterday, and now I'm going to rinse. Hopefully there's not going to be a lot of bleeding, I'm hoping. Because this is completely cool, I can use cold water I'm going to do the darker colors first, just to be in the safe place. But if you can see here, there's no bleeding at all. I'm going to go for the red. So that's what you aim for. You aim for not having bleeding, because you don't want to have it in the environment, and also because if you don't have bleeding, you have to rinse less times, and that will help you, will avoid felting. Again, the red, no bleeding at all. That's pretty cool. Let's see the orange. And no bleeding. So this is really nice. Let me take saran wrap off. So if you are going to try to do this for the first time, I really suggest that you don't do such a long skein as this. Try with something smaller. You're gonna have more repeats, but it is much easier to handle than this yarn. So nothing there neither. I'm doing one by one just because I want to be sure there's no bleeding of the dye. And then I'll put everything together with a little bit of soap. The soap helps to take whatever leftover dye there might be. And again, pretty good. So the way I do this to be able, not to be able to be sure, but to reduce the possibility of having bleeding is really by weighing the amount of fiber. Like I had 155 grams of yarn, and I used 160 ml more or less of dye. So this way the fiber was able to absorb it all, nothing in the green. And the last one is the yellow. So hopefully the yellow will be okay. And I cannot see any white spots, so it paid out to do what I did yesterday. Paid off. I might have a little bit of white where I have the tied ups that are very tight, but having in mind all the hassle with the yarn, I will accept that. Okay, so I'm just putting some soap. And nothing, so that's pretty good. The thing with when you're dyeing yarn is that you don't have to be as careful when you're dyeing fiber. Your chances of felting are much smaller. The other thing is, if you have a skein that is messed up, it's easier to unmess it if you have a lot of water. So I don't know if this is going to work with this skein because it's so skinny and long, but I'll try that. So another rinse just to take the soap. There's no bleeding. I'm happy. Even putting a little bit warmer water just as a final. Remember, what makes it felt is going from hot to cold and not cold to hot. So we are safe here. All right, now I'm going to put it to hang, and next time I'll come to you, I'll be knitting the socks. Hi. So we had a lot of fun in the dyeing part, mainly unraveling the yarn before dyeing. Amazingly, after I rinsed the yarn, and it was very easy to put it out, and you can see pictures of how I did to unravel, to put it in a ball. I put the two yarns together in a ball because it was too large to work on each one. And then after I had one ball, I separated into two balls. Then I thought, well, from now on it's going to be smooth sailing. Little did I know. So the previous socks that I have knitted, they were one solid collar and then one variegated yarn, or two solid collars. Well, when I'm doing this and I have two yarns, I have the collars changing all the time. So the way I figured that I would always know which collar I would have to start first or in my yarn, I put one yarn coming from the center of the ball and the other yarn coming from the outside. This way I would always know which one was the beginning yarn, because the colors would change, right? The other problem that I had is that because I did 6 different colors, inevitably there was a time that the colors would get together. So I would have one yarn that was close to end and the other one with the same color. So for me to avoid to have one line, one row with the same color, I had to cut the yarn and do it. So that caused me to have some areas with extra yarn that I had to cut so that I could have the two yarns. And then, because now the yarn that was from the center pole should be my second yarn, I would change it again. So I would consider that. But I think the solution for this is to have an odd number of colors. So I did the basic color wheel, right? I went to 100% red, 100% blue, and 100% yellow. And then I put 50-50 of each one. So I got 6 different colors. I think the solution for it would be to have a 7th repeat. So you get one color and you repeat twice. If you did it by that, then you could work and you would never get to a point that the two colors would blend. I think I didn't try that. So for the next project. The other thing is, because of that, I think I undid the project twice. And then I was doing my 3rd time and I said, I think this is too small. And yeah, this was a little bit tighter, but after washing, it got narrower, and this is very narrow. So I'm just keeping it for when my grandson comes, he'll be able to wear it. And it's very, very hot. So what I did is, instead of using the 2.25 ml needle, that is what the pattern asked, and I thought, well, if the pattern asks, it's okay, because normally when you're doing Fair Isle, they say you should use a larger needle. But I thought, if the pattern is for a Fair Isle and it says 225, I'm going to use that. Well, not for my feet. So instead I changed it for a 3, and I know for sure it goes through my feet on this. The other thing is that I knit with the yarn on my neck. That's how I knit. So when you're doing from yarn from your neck, like people call this Portuguese knitting, but Portuguese people in general, they have two things on their blouse that they put the thread through and then they knit. I can't do this way, I don't know why. So what I figured out, I just put one yarn in each side, and there are nice videos on YouTube teaching you Portuguese knitting, and I do it. And the thing that I like about it is that if you see the yarn in the back, it is pretty good. Like, it's not too messy, the tension is okay, and it's very easy for you to make. So I'll just make a row here for you to see how I make the yarn. First, it has to do like an M or a W in your work, right? So I have the first yarn going this way, and then the other yarn going that way, and I can hold the yarn here with this finger and this one with this finger, and then I'm ready to do it. I normally do tops 3 stitches before holding it. So 1, 2, now I'm changing the color, so I go 1, 2, 3, and then I'm gonna attach it there, 1, 2, and 1. So again, 1, and then this line I have to do 5 of the red, so I can do 1, 2, and I just lock the yarn there, 2. I can lock it again, but I normally do 2 and 3. And then I go to the other side, 1, 2, and I go under, lock it. I can let it go again if I want, and 1, and 2, and 1. So it's very easy, and you get a nice background on your thing. What you have to have in mind if you're going to do it Portuguese is that you gotta do it the other way around. So you gotta pay attention on how you're doing, and I always go the other way around instead of going, if you were knitting like this, you would go clockwise. My knitting is the opposite, is anti-clockwise. And sometimes you need to think of this when you're looking at the pattern, how you are doing it to make it work. Mainly for me, the most difficult part was to do the heel, because it was go and come back. And when I'm coming back, it doesn't flow as nice. And also I had to think how to do that. So after I finish this, I will weave these ends here and do it. And you have an idea of the socks, how the socks are so far. The other thing is, I noticed when I use the needle size 3 ml, it was growing much faster than with the 2. So the end I will have to do it less rows than I did here. For this reason, I decided to start the other sock so that I can then do this together. I started it, but I thought I'm not going to remember how I did this when I am at the end. So I will undo this part when I'm ready with this sock, and then I will do both at the same size. So these are some points that I wanted to let you know while I'm knitting, in case you decide to do a project like this, you have an idea of, you know, not to make the same mistakes that I did, hopefully. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is about markers. Like when I do lace, when I'm doing Fair Isle, I also like to have markers. And this helps me see when I make a mistake almost immediately or on the next row, because something is not going to work, right? Now, I wanted to talk about markers. I got these 2 markers at Walmart. This marker, the problem that I think it has is that it is too thick, and then it tends to keep an opening on the yarn when you're knitting. This other one, it is thin, but it's hard, it doesn't fold. And then my daughter gave me this that she got on a knitting store, and they're nice because they are a little bit thicker than these ones, but they're flexible. So I do like the flexibility of them. It's nicer to work with than this one. So if you are starting to work with markers, just in case, look for something that is thin if possible, and maybe even if they are hard, they might be better than thicker yarns. That's all I wanted to add about markers. So last night I had already finished the socks. I just need to do the kitchen stitch at the end. And I was thinking, where did I go wrong? And where I went wrong is that I had in my mind that I would have to start a yarn from the center, the beginning, and the other from the end. But if I do like that, 2 colors will always match, and that's what happened here. It didn't matter where I started because I was taking from each yarn on the opposite way. At certain time, the yarn matched, right? So I was thinking, oh, if I did an odd number, maybe I could help it. But then I figured it out. So the way you do it, I have 6 colors starting with yellow. My second yarn, instead of getting from the other end that would be going up, I just go 2 down on the colors. So I started with blue and go on the other colors. And this way, the colors would never match because they have one different color in between. And what would happen is that I would get the repeats at this width, not the 2 colors together. But the sock is done. I'm not going to undo them for the 5th time. I think they're funky. I love them. They're very cushy, so in the winter it's going to be very warm. And for me, it's going to be perfect. It's perfect to use with short boots or to wear with your slippers at home. So I'm happy. We had some fun moments, my husband and I. It was totally worth it. And I hope you enjoy and you can take something out of it. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Isso aqui, oh, é pouquinho de Brasil, Yaacov.